Hi everyone, I'm Geri Ford and welcome to my studio. And what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to alter this pattern from the Scattered Thoughts of a Crafty Mom, which is a peasant dress, and it's free to download. I put the link in the description below. So in this video, I'm not going to show you how to put this dress together, but I'm going to show you how to change the sleeve out so that you have lace or some other fabric just on the edge, and it still creates a nice casing inside. And also how to do lace shaping. Here the hem has got curved lace shaping, but I'm using ordinary nylon lace from Joann's. It's there's nothing special. I did not have to buy heirloom lace, which has the pull tab at the top, in order to get this shape. I'll show you my little secret on how I did that. Okay, so let's get started. This is the peasant dress pattern, but I want to make some changes to it. This is what the normal sleeve looks like. It's just a plain, the sleeve has a casing at the top at the bottom. Well, I want to fancy this up a bit. And I'm not going to show you how to sew the whole pattern. You can look on her tutorial. It's an excellent tutorial. I'm just going to show you how I made changes to that pattern. I want to put lace at the bottom. I also want some lace to go at the edge of the sleeve, but all I want to stick out is the lace part. Because this is for a baby, I don't want a lot of heavy lace on there, but I want it to be nice and light and cute and fluffy on the edges. Oh, and the other thing I'm going to do, or actually I already did, was I took an embroidery design that I had, and I believe this one was from one of John Deere's designs, and it was a full long design, and I cut it in half so that it could be a cute little pocket topper. I also drafted the pattern for the pocket and put some lace at the top. So this is ready to sew on. I took the embroidery design into Embrilliance Enthusiast software. You could also use, if you have the old Designer's Gallery, Embroidery Works Advanced, and do the same thing. And this, I simply cut the design sort of in half where I wanted it to show and just stitch the upper part. If you want to see how I did that, there is a link where I showed my students how to take a design and split it in half using the Embrilliance software. Okay, so I want to put lace at the bottom here. And why this is a little different is because the bottom of this skirt is rounded, so, and this is flat, and I don't want to just put that flat. I'm going to show you how I'm going to round this without having fancy, expensive French heirloom lace that has the little drawstring on one end. So I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so now to do the sleeves. In order to put the lace, because I want it at the edge, which means I've got to have a seam right here. So I actually cut a strip of fabric, or two strips, one for each sleeve, 1 inch wide, as long as the sleeve. Okay, the other thing is I'm going to take this sleeve pattern, I've already got it cut out, but I don't want this thing to be too long, so I want it to be shortened. I'm taking a 1/2 inch off or more. If I want it to be a little tiny short sleeve with mostly lace, I would cut more off. But I really only want to cut a 1/2 inch off, because by the time I seam, this is going to be 3/4 inch. And actually, by the time you did the casing, this sleeve would be a little smaller anyway. So here I'm going to cut it 1/2 inch off the bottom of the seam. By the time I seam it, that's 3/4 inch. And first of all, I'm going to serge the side seams and the arm's eyes. That's all. Same thing here, just this and this, which is the arm's eye and the side seams. After that, prepare the pocket. So I've got the pocket ready. I just have to sew it on, and that's ready to go. I have serged the arm's eyes, the side seams, also pre-turned while the pieces are flat. Anywhere I've got to do a hem or a casing, you know, where it says turn it a 1/4 inch, then turn it another 1/2 inch for the casing or the hem or the whatever. Well, I like to do all that flat. So I've got these all pressed here, up here, on the sleeve. Here's my sleeve. Let me move this out of the way. So here's the sleeve, and I've pressed the top edge where the casing on the neckline is going to go, and I've also got my 1-inch strips and I've pressed over 1/4 inch. So I'm going to partially prepare these sleeves while it's in the flat. I'm going to go ahead and sew my lace on from one edge to the other. 1/4 inch in, so here is the raw edge at the bottom of the sleeve, and I'm going to sew this with right sides together, and lace does have a right and a wrong side. I'm only going to sew this to within 1 inch of either side. And then after that, I'm going to take my folded edge of my 1-inch strip. Usually I'll just, this is just basting 1/4 inch, or just slightly inside 1/4 inch, so it's going to catch the edge of the lace. And I'm going to sew a seam, again, right here, 1/4 inch in, leaving about 1 inch on either side open. I'm going to start at one end. I'm going to put my lace a little less than 1/4 inch from the edge, and I'm going to just base this on. This is a scant 1/4 inch, so it's not quite 1/4 inch, starting at least 1 inch on either side of the seam. So here we go, just base this in. Stop about 1 inch, 1.5 inch away from the side seam, and check to make sure your lace is caught, and yes, it is. Okay, then you're going to take that strip that you cut before and right sides together. Again, line it up with the edge and sew a 1/4 inch, again leaving about 1.25 inches on either side of the seam, and sew a regular 1/4 inch. And this will trim later. I'm going to go ahead and press this. Give it a good press, because on this side now that creates the casing for the sleeve. We're not going to sew that now, just simply press it. And here's one already pressed. Okay, so this is ready to construct. As usual, go ahead and sew your sleeves on, and then sew your side seams. When you go to sew these together, you're going to open up anywhere you folded. I'm going to open up the neck at the neckline and sew this seam, press it towards the sleeve end, and then I'm going to sew my side seams together. And I'm going to, when I sew the side seams, I'm going to open this up like that and sew my side seams and press them open. Okay, now I'm pinning my side seam together. So I open up the 1/4 inch where I pressed at the hem and the 1/4 inch here, and hold all the lace and that piece of the casing away. And then I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch seam. I've pressed all of the seams towards the sleeve. Okay, so 1/4 inch. Since it's only a 1/4 inch seam, I'm going to press all the seams to one side. If it were a bigger one, I would leave a little bit more for the side seams to open it up, so that I could sew in that vent that a lot of people like to put at the bottom. But this is for a baby. Now, I'm ready to sew this back on. This is easier on the bigger sleeves. The bigger patterns, this is easier. This one is the smallest one, so it's like making doll clothes. Okay, I'm going to trim the lace so that it overlaps about 1/2 inch. I have more than I need. A lot more than I need. Okay, then. Okay, I want to press this towards the back, so I'll just finger press it for now. I'm going to overlap this lace here, scant 1/4 inch, but you can judge by the rest of it. You can pin it in place if you like for a moment. Then I'm going to open the seam. Now, one of these I'm going to press fold one end down, just lay the other one on top, and you want it to overlap, one on the bottom is just pressed over. Okay, and this one is going to overlap. You can leave it or just thin it out if you like. It's a little long. Okay. I'll put an extra little pin here just to hold it, but you don't have to. Remember, I partially stitched it and I stopped here, so I'm going to overlap it by about 1/2 inch. Sew my 1/4 inch all the way across to where you finished before and back tack. Now I'm going to turn it right sides out. This would be easy to sew on a free arm. I don't have a free arm. This is a commercial machine, so it's flat. So this is, if you have a flat, turn the garment right sides out. See, I already had pre-pressed it, so I'm going to just finger press this down. I can pin it in place. Okay, now I'm going to sew the casing. If you want to, you could pin it. If you've pressed it well, you don't need to. I'm going to start over the seam. So I'm going to sew that closed. I'm just edge stitching the casing on the other edge. Just go across, go around. See, I can just keep manipulating this until I get all the way around. So you don't have to have a free arm. It just takes a little more fiddling. I'm going to stop about 1 inch away from where I started stitching. Take this to your zigzag machine, or it could be a straight stitch. You don't seam lace to make it thick. It doesn't look good. You can just overlap it. So if you're doing a straight stitching like I'm going to, I'm just going to sew a double row of white straight up and down, and that's it. And then trim right close to the stitching. It's not going to come out, don't worry, especially if you zigzag it, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, now that I have the elastic in here, I'm going to just simply sew the casing closed. A little hard to do when it's this little. Okay, all done. Just distribute the elastic, and I'm going to sew my lace closed, and look how cute that is. Okay, now I'm ready to put the lace on the bottom. Everything else is pretty much done. You determine where you want to put your lace. See, here's the problem, is that I have a curved hem, but the lace is straight. Measure enough to go along the bottom, and make sure you have enough and a little extra. And so I have threaded up my machine with wash away thread, and I like to use Vanish Extra by Superior threads in order to gather up just a little bit of the top edge of the lace. And then I'm just stitching. Just go straight, don't worry about getting it so straight, and sort of pull it out because you only want a little bit of gathering. Using wash away thread means we get to gather it up, and then we don't have to worry about having that unsightly line. And that way we'll stitch it on with regular thread and then hit it with a hot steam iron, and the line is gone. You just want to go in with about 1/8 of an inch from the top edge of the lace. See, it's wanting to gather a little bit on its own anyway. If the thread breaks, no big deal. It's a humid day, and when you've got a lot of humidity, then you have some problems with it breaking pretty easily. But just rethread it, keep going. It's slightly gathered at the top, but right now I'm only going to worry about the bottom. So I'm going to probably turn this inside out and work from inside. Okay, so I'm going to start at the front, at the side seam. I have changed my thread to a 60 weight polyester thread. It's lingerie bobbin thread. Actually, what I'm using, it's called Bottom Line by Superior Thread, but you could also use embroidery bobbin thread. I want real thin. So I have marked I've already hemmed the bottom, and I've put a mark about 1.5 inches from the bottom. So I'm going to just start stitching at the bottom row with the regular white thread and just ease it into a curve. Don't worry about what's happening at the top. And sew all the way around. I'm using about a 2.5 millimeter long stitch. Okay, when I get about 1 inch away, here you have a choice. You can just overlap it and stitch it straight, but if you really want a seam, then I would just cut it. That's a little bit. Fold it under and stitch across. Back tack. Okay. I'm going to turn it back right sides out. Okay, now you've got some little bit, got too much gathering, just pull it out. You can actually take, if it's got a little bit too much like it does here, I'm going to just simply take a iron with a little bit of steam, not much. And I usually will start right where I started here. Okay, right here. I'm going to press this over. Give it a press. Now, if you want to baste, Elmer's washable school glue is marvelous stuff. Just simply go underneath of it just very lightly. Into place and heat set it into place. This bastes it. Okay, and then go all the way around. If you need, like I need to release some of these gathers, that's a little bit too much. You can do one or two things. You can wet it, it'll go away. Well, you know what? I could do that. Just hit it with some steam. It will release. I have no steam. It released enough. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of glue underneath. Actually, I'll be back because I'm going to go get some water for this iron. It's out. It's slightly gathered at the top, but right now I'm only going to worry about the bottom. So I'm going to probably turn this inside out and work from inside. I'm going to start at the front at the side seam. I have changed my thread to a 60 weight polyester thread. It's lingerie bobbin thread. Actually, what I'm using, it's called Bottom Line by Superior Thread, but you could also use embroidery bobbin thread. I want real thin. So I have marked I've already hemmed the bottom, and I've put a mark about 1.5 inches from the bottom. So I'm going to just start stitching at the bottom row with the regular white thread and just ease it into a curve. Don't worry about what's happening at the top. And so all the way around. I'm using about a 2.5 millimeter long stitch. Okay, when I get about 1 inch away, here you have a choice. You can just overlap it and stitch it straight. But if you really want a seam, then I would just cut it, fold it under, and stitch across. Back tack. I'm going to turn it back right sides out. Okay, now you've got some little bit, got too much gathering, just pull it out. You can actually take if it's got a little bit too much like it does here, take a iron with a little bit of steam, not much. And I usually will start right where I started here. Okay, right here. I'm going to press this over. Give it a press. Now, if you want to baste, Elmer's washable school glue is marvelous stuff. Just simply go underneath of it just very lightly. Into place and heat set it into place. This bastes it. Okay, and then go all the way around. If you need, like I need to release some of these gathers, that's a little bit too much. Okay, so see as it ripples here, just going to hit it with a shot of steam. See it even, you can see it shriveling up. If it's too much, just take your seam ripper where you can see the thread and just give it a snip. Okay. And I'm going to take my glue underneath, just a little bit. You don't need much. And that heat sets it down nice and flat. And now that's basted down. And this way you're not doing a lot of pinning. Okay, it's basted in place. So I'm going to take it back to the machine. I'm just, see how I did a running stitch right here? You can barely see it. And I'm going to do another one right here. I'm going to start here and then go across to the top. It's easier inside out, to be honest with you. Let me turn this. There, it's just easier to handle. Okay. And just sew the top edge. And see, it's perfectly basted in. And it's going to go in flat and perfect the first time. Take it to the my big iron, which puts out sufficient steam. This little teeny one doesn't. Or you could use a wet pressing cloth and press this down. You can see the basting line right here. And so I'm going to take a damp pressing cloth to simulate high steam. And I'm just going to touch it. And look, right there is completely gone. I'm going to steam the whole thing. Once it's steamed away, everything is perfectly flat. This will actually look beautiful. You won't see that line of thread. So you've achieved heirloom sewing, lace shaping, without having to buy the very, very expensive French lace, which has got the pull strings built into it. You can do this for any lace shaping that you have to use, whether it's a table runner, a lace scarf, a baby dress, christening gown, whatever. Here's the dress all finished with the lace variation on the sleeve and the lace shaping along the hem. So I hope you like the variation on the peasant dress. If you have any questions, don't forget to email me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com and I'll try to answer any of them. So thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and hit the notification bell so that you can be notified when I load up additional videos. Bye.